Starsand Island is a cozy life simulation game that released in early access earlier this year, and coincidentally, it actually just had its official 1.0 release a couple days ago. So far, the reviews for Starsand Island are quite abysmal. One reviewer gave the game a 4.5, not out of 5, but out of 10. And they said, quote, "It needs an industrial grade insecticide to make it playable." I made a video about Starsand Island back in February when it released in early access, and in that video I discussed some of the more bewildering aspects of the game, as well as the company making it. For starters, the studio making Starsand Island raised funds on Kickstarter and pretended that they were this little indie studio, when in actuality, I found documents showing that the studio making Starsand Island received significant funding from a multi-billion-dollar corporation called Kingsoft. Starsand Island also, allegedly, paid for positive bot reviews on Steam. When this game released in early access, the Steam page was flooded with AI-written reviews calling it the best game ever, basically. The developer denied that they were behind these bot reviews and claimed that they were investigating them, which, I mean, to me, that's like Donald Trump saying he's gonna investigate who's behind the AI-generated photos of Donald Trump on Truth Social. Bitch, we know who's doing it. We know who's behind it.
It was you!
Actually, a few months after the early access release, I went back to the Steam page to see if the Starsand Island people had done anything about these bot reviews, and lo and behold, those bot reviews were still being posted, such as this one claiming it's everything I ever wanted in a game, or this one which says it's redefining Chinese-made games. But the controversy surrounding Starsand Island did not end there. A few months after I made my video, Starsand Island was suddenly, dramatically removed from Steam altogether. Deadass, you could not buy this game, let alone find its Steam page, for at least a week. Why did this happen? Well, we later found out that the publisher had been forced to remove the game for copyright infringement. Basically, there was a mini game in Starsand Island that was a complete ripoff of Tetris, and apparently the Tetris people saw this and said, yo, you guys stole our game and you put it in your game and you're charging people money for it, and that's not cool.
Yeah.
So they filed a copyright claim against Starsand Island, which forced it to be removed from Steam for over a week, I believe it was. All this to say, Starsand Island has always kind of been mid as fuck and shady as fuck. This game has never been revolutionary or groundbreaking or particularly innovative, unless of course you were one of the many creators who got paid to promote this game. Miss Bubbles, a cozy game content creator, was one of them, and she found herself in the center of a massive controversy with Starsand Island. Miss Bubbles made 3 sponsored videos for this game where she acted like it was this incredible, genre-defining cozy game.
It really feels like a experience that the devs have poured so much love into it. Starsand Island is my obsession. This is taking farming games to the next level. Burnout can really get to you, but then a gem like Starsand Island comes along. This game is revolutionary, and I'll keep saying it over and over again. If you find that a problem, leave. Leave, like what do you want from me?
But at the same time, all the content creators who were not sponsored by Starsand Island had very different experiences with it.
Today, Starsand Island is a hollow shell. It is a beautiful tech demo with no soul and too many glitches.
Would you say so far the game is worth the EA price? Respectfully, with so much peace and love, no.
And I think if we take everything into account, from the bugs to the content missing, I can't really recommend it right now.
When all this was going on, another cozy YouTuber named Josh's Gaming Garden said, without mentioning Miss Bubbles' name, that viewers should be wary of sponsored videos and that paid reviews should be taken with a grain of salt. That sounds like a common sense statement, right? But Josh's comment really triggered Miss Bubbles, and she went on to do a 3-hour live stream calling him a piece of shit.
Disgusting behavior. Piece of shit.
Two-faced, she said she was disgusted about 100 times. She made these weird threats, saying things like, oh, the things I know about him.
Yeah, trust him. The stuff that I know about him, trust him.
And she warned him that she'd make sure he'd get his karma.
And I'm not surprised he'll get his karma. Oh, he definitely. I already made sure. that karma is gonna be served.
I discussed this whole controversy with Josh and Miss Bubbles in my video about Star Sand Island. All the shady stuff going on with the developers combined with the influencer payola of it all was kind of a perfect match for my channel because these are things I usually talk about. I think it's very important that content creators like myself use our platforms to discuss the ways companies manipulate and deceive us, the players. I've also spoken at length about influencers and the way companies use them to drive sales for games that are often not very good. They do this at our expense. And my video about Star Sand Island allowed me to discuss these two very important issues at length. Not to toot my own horn, but I think I was very successful at getting my point across in that video, and it got over 350,000 views. However, this content creator, Miss Bubbles, was not very happy with my video, and about 3 months later, she made her own video. In it, Miss Bubbles claimed that she was being bullied and getting death threats, and that I was responsible for all the hate she was receiving.
In the past 2 months, I've received death threats, sexist and racist comments, and enough harassment to the point that I had to lock down my channel and stop streaming completely. And this all happened because of false accusations that are spreading online about me.
In this video, she doubled down on her claim that even though she was paid to make sponsored videos for Star Sand Island, it didn't matter, and she was still being 100% fully honest.
All of these things that he claims about me are incorrect.
She also claimed that I am this hateful person with a hateful channel.
There's a current trend on YouTube where content creators are fueling so much rage and hatred towards other content creators. When I looked at his channel, just a quick look, I saw all of the negativity and the hatred that he does. I understood the nature of his content and I didn't feel like I had to defend myself against that.
And that I twisted her words and mischaracterized her for my own financial gain.
Not Malcolm consistently frames my stream in a misleading way. Not Malcolm takes selective clips to build misleading narratives. With the amount of things that he had taken out of context and all the false information he shared.
Now, obviously, I completely disagree with her assessment, and although I wanted to defend myself at the time, and I even had several people asking me, yo, are you gonna respond to Miss Bubbles' video? I also knew that reacting to her video would likely result in her getting even more angry comments. Therefore, as a favor to Miss Bubbles, I did not respond publicly to her video. Despite some of the people who believe this is a drama channel, I think the fact that I didn't respond to this video 3 months ago when it was posted is proof that my goal is not to monetize off of petty drama, it's actually to advocate for players and push back against companies and influencers who engage in anti-consumer behavior. That has always been the goal of my channel. Anyway, Miss Bubbles went on to leave several comments under my videos, many times adding me directly to try to get me to respond, but I simply ignored all of these. Under Miss Bubbles' video, she liked several comments calling me pathetic, jealous, a loser, a hypocrite, a grifter, and a drama farmer with no soul. She liked comments saying that I love to attack women and that I'm an insecure man trying to take down a female content creator. She liked comments saying that I would, quote, get exposed for being a sexist bigot. And she even liked a comment saying that I'm just a loser who's mad that I can't get with her. I don't even know how to respond to that.
Yeah.
Look, these random people leaving comments, I can deal with that, trust me. I do think it's rather telling that Miss Bubbles was hearting these comments, but maybe she was just being petty, you know? It happens to the best of us. However, what I can't ignore is these comments from Miss Bubbles herself, where she's calling me xenophobic, sexist, and racist. In this comment, Miss Bubbles claims that because I told someone who is another content creator who has a Spanish-speaking channel that I would like them to stop leaving essay-linked, clearly ChatGPT written comments under my videos, that I'm a xenophobe. And I guess she just threw in racist and sexist because it felt right at the moment. I don't fucking know. But it boils down to this. I am not going to let another content creator use their platform to accuse me of such deplorable shit. To be clear, I think calling someone xenophobic, racist, and sexist is about 100 times worse than calling them a shill, and unlike Miss Bubbles, who we have video proof of being an actual shill dozens of times, you will not find any record or proof of me being xenophobic, racist, or sexist because, shocker, I am not. The xenophobia accusation alone is bizarre because, if you don't know, xenophobia is a fear of foreigners, and I myself am a foreigner. I have been an immigrant for the last 10 years of my life, and I've also hosted fundraisers on this channel to raise money for foreigners in the US who are being murdered at the hands of ICE and the Trump administration. So I don't need to sit here and prove to everyone that I'm not these things, but I absolutely will push back against anyone, especially a public figure like Miss Bubbles, who has the fucking audacity to accuse me of things that are so deplorable. And now I think is the perfect time to react to your video that you made 3 months ago about me, and I'm gonna go point by point and disprove every fucking thing that you're saying. Before we get into this though, I do have a few things to say. First of all, I recorded some of this video a while back for my channel members, so that's why I'm wearing different clothes and stuff, but I will be jumping in and out in real time with more thoughts. By the way, shameless plug, join my channel membership. It's pretty great. I think for US people, the first month is free right now. At least that's what someone told me. But in my members videos, I give insider scoop. I talk about behind the scenes stuff, future plans for videos, life updates, etc. But I do not show bare feet in the members videos. You gotta look somewhere else for that. Secondly, I do just want to address this part because there's a ton of comments under Miss Bubbles' video claiming that I'm a misogynist. And as much as I think those comments are stupid and not worth addressing because again, I know who I am and I know that I'm certainly not a misogynist, I just want to reiterate that if you take a look at my channel, you can see that I equally criticize men and women in my videos. And I'm pretty sure my audience, who is 70% women, can also see that. The truth is, I don't care if you identify as a Siamese cat. If you do or say something that is problematic or bad for players, I will criticize you. I'm an equal opportunity hater. Okay?
Yeah.
And my criticism of Miss Bubbles has nothing to do with her gender, nor have I ever implied anything derogatory about her or anyone's gender. My original video about this whole thing and all of my videos where I discuss influencers are about influencers who are engaging in anti-consumer behavior and simply being problematic as fuck, period. So if you want to be that reductive and be that low IQ and just say, oh, he's a misogynist, you clearly don't get it if that's the case. But I also just think it kind of minimizes real life cases of misogyny by just throwing out that label anytime you see a man criticizing someone who just so happens to be a woman. Miss Bubbles' video is called I Stayed Silent, but I Don't Feel Safe Anymore. Very dramatic title, but let's get into it. Yeah.
This isn't a video that I wanted to make, but in the past 2 months, I've received death threats, sexist and racist comments, and enough harassment to the point that I had to lock down my channel and stop streaming completely. And this all happened because of false accusations that are spreading online about me.
So we're starting off here and she's saying she got a ton of hate comments. I'm sorry that happened, but circling back to what I just said, all of this started because of what you did. Right there. And I want to add here that anyone who is a content creator is aware that hate comments are part of the job. That is the nature of social media, whether we like it or not. I'm not condoning it or saying it's okay for people to leave hate comments. In a perfect world, of course, that wouldn't happen. But every content creator has gotten angry and mean-spirited comments. It is the nature of this line of work. I could legit come on here and say Tom Holland has the fattest ass of any Spider-Man, and somebody, maybe a Tobey Maguire stan, would get offended and triggered and call me a slur because of that. It's just like, that's the internet for you, you know? On the flip side though, and this is more relevant to what we're seeing from Miss Bubbles, I've noticed that anytime a content creator gets called out for doing something unethical or problematic, they throw up their hands and they say, guys, I'm getting hate comments, I'm getting death threats. And again, while those hate comments are not okay, way too many creators pull this bad things are happening to me card to try to deflect or excuse or absolve themselves of any wrongdoing. And that is exactly what Miss Bubbles is doing in this video.
Hello, you gorgeous human being. It's Miss Bubbles. If you're new here, I adore RPGs and cozy games, and I cover them a lot on this channel. Now, a bit of lore about me. I started this channel 5 years ago when COVID was rampant everywhere and life in Lebanon was falling apart. This is why I always wear this necklace. This is the cedar tree. Imagine one day waking up to find out that banks have taken all of your money. Like, all of your savings are gone. This is what happened to us. At the same time, the Beirut blast happened, where innocent people lost their lives. The country was going through severe power cuts.
I feel really sorry that you had to go through these things, but it is not relevant to the topic at hand because that's where all this stems from once again. It didn't start in Lebanon. It started with your live stream. I just want to jump in here and give a disclaimer, I guess, because I am aware that my delivery when I say things can be somewhat callous at times, but that's just who I am. I'm very direct. I feel so terrible for what's happening in the Middle East and Lebanon and Palestine, of course. I feel for Miss Bubbles' family and anyone living in those countries, but it really does feel like she's just saying all this at the beginning, which is totally irrelevant to the topic at hand. This is about a video game. It just comes across as her bringing up all this stuff at the beginning of the video to try to garner sympathy and make people feel bad for her from the jump so that they see her as a victim. And that's just so fucking manipulative. It's so fucked up on every level. I'm sorry. If somebody does something shitty and you confront them and they start off by saying, oh my God, in my childhood, my parents got divorced and my dog died and I got bullied in school and all this shit. It's like, okay, but we can't use those things to excuse our bad behavior. We've all experienced traumas. We've all been through bad shit. We cannot use that to excuse or justify or try to absolve ourselves of taking accountability.
I managed to move to the UK a few years ago, but my family still lives in Lebanon, and we're gonna get back to that later in the video. You know, I even remember when I was a kid, I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it and just remembering what happened. I was hiding under my bed while I literally would see missiles just like dropping a few minutes away from my house. And I know this got dark very quickly. I'm sorry about this, but I feel like it's very important for you to get a little bit of a background story about where I come from.
It's not relevant to this topic. I'm sorry. It's not related at all to what happened. And I don't want to minimize the awful things you experienced or anyone experienced, but we cannot use those things to excuse bad behavior. Let's proceed.
Hopefully this also answers to the many comments that I've received making fun of my accent. English is not my first language. In fact, I speak 4 languages. I speak Arabic, English, French, and Romanian. Yes, gaming also helped me when my family moved to Romania for 7 years before we moved back to Lebanon.
I will say I did have to delete a couple comments on my video from people making fun of her accent, as well as Josh's accent. I really do not like when people make fun of how others look or how they talk or, you know, how they dress or their mannerisms, whatever. I feel like it kind of cheapens whatever point I'm trying to get across in my videos when people start attacking someone's physical characteristics or something like that. So I understand. But again, it is the internet and people are going to say things that make us uncomfortable.
This channel, I made 2 promises. The first thing was bringing RPG lovers and cozy gamers together so that the nuance of, oh, you have to play X and Y game to be considered a real gamer is just shattered. I also wanted to bring people joy by playing games that I myself loved and maybe they would love as well. And the second promise I made was to always speak honestly about games, regardless of whether I received a review code, a sponsorship, or a PR package.
Miss Bubbles has been sponsored by a lot of very shitty and mid cozy games. Okay, you can look at her channel and at the endless amount of sponsorships she's done. A lot of these are slop mobile games. A lot of them are very cheaply made, very low effort. They're just not good games categorically. And when she's getting sponsored by those games, she's always recommending them. She's never getting sponsored and saying, well, the game actually isn't very good. That was the whole issue with Star Sand Island. She was saying this game is revolutionary. It's changing the cozy farming sim genre. But then everyone else was playing the game and being like, this game is really average. It's pretty mid. There's a lot that's missing. It's not anything special. It's not changing cozy games. It's not game of the year. Yet Miss Bubbles was acting like it was. So I already feel like we're seeing a lot of twisting and manipulation and setting herself up to be a victim as we expected from the title. But Anyway, continuing.
And in my case, Not Malcolm has made 3 videos about me, with a 4th one that's apparently in the making.
This is getting out of hand.
I have made 2 videos, public videos about Miss Bubbles. The first one is the one that was reacting to her 3-hour live stream. And the second one wasn't even just about Miss Bubbles. The first half of it was about her, and the rest of it was about another content creator. I think I've talked about Miss Bubbles in a couple members only videos, but these are private videos.
He used my face in one of his thumbnails, labeling me as fake, while the other 2 are uploaded as members-only videos.
These 2 members videos that she's saying were about her were not entirely about her. Like the last members video I posted, half of that was me talking about my trip to Thailand. So I'm starting to think that she's not a member. I'm sad to hear that, Miss Bubbles. You should really sign up. But I'm starting to think that somebody else told her that these videos are all about her, which is not the case, sadly. I'm sorry, Miss Bubbles, it's not all about you.
So more content about me was moved behind a paywall, meaning people are even paying to watch these videos and spread even more hatred about me. Now, from what I've seen, including in my own situation, Not Malcolm takes selective clips to build misleading narratives.
That is such bullshit, and you know it. When you said you were disgusted 100 times, I showed you saying I'm disgusted 100 fucking times. When you called him a piece of shit, I showed you saying piece of shit. That is why I spend so much time editing these fucking videos and putting everything together, because I could just come on here and say, she said this, this, and this in the video and not give you any receipts. But I always show evidence of you saying what I'm saying you're saying. That is such a low effort rebuttal to be like, you took me out of context. I'm using your own words here. Your own words.
So when he made his first video about me, he ends up pinning a comment in that video where he's acting surprised and he's saying, I know most of you are intelligent with your criticism and I appreciate that, but I have to say I don't condone anyone leaving cruel comments about someone's appearance, voice, accent, gender, ethnicity, or anything like that. I already had to delete several comments on this video.
Absolutely. And I stand by that. That is why you will never hear me insult someone's appearance or resort to petty insults and name calling. I'm not making fun of how people talk or making it about your gender or your race or ethnicity, nationality, anything like that. Because again, I feel like those types of comments would cheapen the point I'm trying to get across. What I'm saying has nothing to do with what you look like or where you come from. It's about your own actions and the behavior that I believe is harmful to players. That's entirely what my channel is about. Calling out anti-consumer practices with video game companies and influencers and with games in general, controversies that I believe are harmful to players. That's the whole premise of my channel. She keeps using the word hate videos, hate content, but my message is never about hating on anyone. It's about holding these individuals and these companies accountable for the shitty things they do. That's what it's about. And I think it's clear to you guys who are watching, but it's very easy once again to reduce anyone who's critical of something to being a hater. But to me and anyone who's intelligent, we know that we can't conflate criticism with hate. They're 2 very different things. And we need critical voices out here speaking up about the real important issues that not everybody wants to talk about.
So he acknowledged that a lot of his viewers were making very cruel comments about me. He still continued to make more videos about me.
I actually noticed something, and I wanted to talk about this before. What happens on YouTube, you post a video, it gets the views, it peaks, and then it starts to decline. And originally, most of the comments were very tame. They were criticizing Miss Bubbles' behavior, not making personal attacks. But suddenly the video shot up again. And I noticed that when it increased again, there was a whole different audience that is not my target audience, not my usual viewers, some of whom were saying some pretty disparaging things about Miss Bubbles, like making fun of her face and her appearance and stuff. And I actually asked someone in a comment, like, where did you find this video? Because there's a lot of people watching who are not my normal audience. Because unlike what she's saying, most of my viewers don't resort to that kind of shit. They're pretty mature and they're intelligent with their criticism, which is what I love about people who watch my videos. But I think it's wrong to say that, oh, his viewers are saying these hateful things. They may have watched one video, but I wouldn't categorize those people as my viewers.
And one of the things that worry me about his behavior is his repeated focus as to why I haven't responded responded back.
Well, she didn't respond at all because you responded to someone who didn't even say anything about you with the 3-hour live stream. That's why I was surprised you didn't respond immediately to my video. You crashed the fuck out over someone who wasn't even saying anything directed at you, yet whenever I made a video that was directed at you, you said nothing.
I have openly discussed that I have been diagnosed with severe chronic pain. It got so bad to the point that this whole arm would just go paralyzed when I'm trying to use my keyboard or do my work. And on top of that, we are going through an ethnic cleansing in Lebanon right now as we speak. So I'm traumatized. I am so scared for my family's life. I don't know if I'll see them again. Yeah, I'm sorry if responding to Not Malcolm was the least of my concerns.
But responding to Josh's Gaming Garden was one of your concerns. You still found time to do that, right? Does she really think she did nothing wrong? That's my question. Miss Bubbles, do you think you did anything wrong in this situation? Because based on how you've reacted to this, and the fact that you kept the videos up, and the fact that you doubled down on Twitter and you were reposting things about content creators who were hating on you, you were the original hater here, Miss Bubbles. All of this started with you. So the fact that she's acting like I did nothing wrong, why would I respond to these hateful people? You were the hateful person, Miss Bubbles. Once again, I am absolutely befuddled by the things that she is saying here. I hope we can get through this whole thing, truly.
And you know, he's actually included some of my footage in his previous videos before, and yet when I looked at his channel, just a quick look, I saw all of the negativity and the hatred that he does. I understood the nature of his content, and I didn't feel like I had to defend myself against that.
Jumping in here right now because I forgot to mention in my reaction, Miss Bubbles actually used to comment on my videos. She would literally be in the comments of my videos about cozy games, and she would find the comments where people were praising her or complimenting her, and she would reply to those comments. She was literally self-promoting in the comments of my own fucking videos, bruh. Here's the proof. I found 3 examples of that. So it's hilarious to me that she's saying, I took one look at his channel and I knew it was just too much hate for me. Well, that's funny because you've been in my comments several times, gleefully responding to comments praising you. So I guess my channel wasn't too hateful for you then, right? Apparently, if I'm talking about another creator or a game company, that's okay. But if the tables are turned and I'm talking about Miss Bubbles, then my videos are suddenly just the most hateful things in the world.
So Malcolm in the Middle's first video was him commentating on a live stream that I made, reacting emotionally to a comment that Josh made about me. Here's some very important context that you need to know about this. Josh and I were very good friends. In fact, I've met him before he even did a face reveal. There was a real friendship here. We supported each other. We collabed many times. We would spend hours on Discord doing productivity sessions. Anytime I saw his videos succeed or he would get opportunities to work with companies he dreamed of, like Marvelous, I would get so happy for him. And naturally, because of our content, we share very similar community members. We used to talk on a daily basis, and he knew exactly the ins and outs of how I approach sponsorships and how important transparency is for me.
Which makes her whole crash out way fucking worse. You were friends with this guy. Close friends, according to you, and you went online in a live stream and called him a piece of shit and said he was two-faced and absolutely disparaged him in front of everyone in a public video. She did the live stream for 3 hours and then she chopped up the live stream and posted another video that was an edited version of the live stream on her channel. So 2 videos attacking your friend. You are a grown-ass adult. You should be handling that shit privately instead of posting these videos where the things you said were infinitely worse than anything he even came close to saying. Once again, it seems like she's trying to portray herself as the victim. It was me who was wronged. He was my friend and he betrayed me, is what I'm feeling like she's about to get to.
With that in mind, Josh insinuated that my opinion on Star Sand Island should not be trusted because the video was sponsored. So we're gonna break all of this down. If you don't know, a before you buy video is my version of a review where I critique a game and I give you a conclusion of this game is for you if, not for you if, and my verdict. And here's the thing, there was no contract between me and Renaissance PR, which is the agency that was managing the campaign for Star Sand Island.
Yeah, I know that because she said that in a live stream. I don't know why she would do a sponsorship without a contract. I feel like that's kind of risky. But yeah, I didn't say in the video that she had a contract to do the Star Sand Island videos, but she was sponsored and she was paid. And we know how much she was paid because we have her rates. And she made 3 sponsored videos for Star Sand Island. So at least $5,000 she made from that sponsorship for that one game.
The truth is, I had no talking points, there was no contract, the company never reviewed my video, and they never told me what I can and cannot say. In my Before You Buy, I talk about how much I love Star Sand Island, but I also spend 6 to 7 hours criticizing the game.
Yeah, I discussed this in the video. She gave very minor, sugar-coated critiques of the game. Again, I never stated that Miss Bubbles only had positive things to say about Star Sand Island. My point was about how she was doubling down and saying, I'm completely honest, I'm always honest with you in every situation, even if I'm getting paid. And for Josh to insinuate that we should take sponsored videos with a grain of salt is an insult to me and I'm highly offended. That was what I was talking about. Because even if you don't have a contract, okay, there is still a psychological component to this. There's something called reciprocity bias. When someone does something nice for you, you're more likely to return or reciprocate that kindness. So whenever a content creator is getting paid thousands of dollars to promote a game, they're more likely, just psychologically, to speak positively about that game. In addition, Miss Bubbles is making less than $1,000 a month in ad revenue. So even if she does one sponsored review a month, that's double what she's making in ad revenue. Someone like Miss Bubbles is not going to do a sponsorship and come on here and say, you know, this game actually isn't very good and I don't recommend it. Pretty average and I found it kind of boring. Because she has a vested interest in continuing to get more sponsorships because this is where most of her income is derived from. So of course, if a game sees her coming on here doing a sponsored video trashing a game, these other games are not going to ask her to do sponsored reviews because that's a risk. So there's a psychological and a financial component to this that she's not addressing. These creators make a lot more money if they're glazing every game that writes them a check. The better they make a game look, the more sales they drive, the more opportunities they get to do more sponsored videos. It is why these game companies use these influencers to market their games like salespeople. And the fact that she lost her shit because of what Josh's Gaming Garden said, take sponsored reviews with a grain of salt and look out for paid promotion videos. The fact that she reacted with so much anger and vitriol shows that financially she's kind of beholden to these games. Her income was threatened by that. That's what this is about. But she's never going to say that.
Now that you have a bit of context about my and Josh's friendship and the reality of my Before You Buy video, let's go back to what Josh did. There was a discussion on his Discord server about how come Miss Bubbles had a positive experience with Star Sand Island, whereas Josh had a negative one. Instead of pointing out that we have always liked and disliked very different games, he took a screenshot of the paid ad tag that was on my video and he dropped it in his chat and
Whoa. She has no way of knowing that that tag is from her video. What she's implying here is that he went to her video and took this screenshot that says includes paid promotion, and she somehow knows that that is from her video. How? Every video that's sponsored has that tag. So this is a very subtle way of her trying to manipulate her viewers into believing that he was talking about her and this was directed at her, but that's not the case. There is no evidence to prove that this was directed at you, Miss Bubbles. He didn't even reply to that comment that said Miss Bubbles' review is so different from Josh's. This was a standalone general statement that he posted on his Discord. And nothing about this is even bad. Random reminder to always look out for this icon, especially when something is a review. On the scale of shade, this is like a -5. He took this screenshot from my video.
he took a screenshot of the paid ad tag that was on my video.
Lies. You have no way of knowing that. This looks like every other includes paid promo on every video. So once again, she's victimizing herself.
And he dropped it in his chat and said, random reminder to look out for this icon, especially when something is a review. If his comment was posted at any other time, I wouldn't really care. I would just see it as, you know what, this is his opinion and that's fine. But to post that at the exact same time when the conversation was specifically about me and how come my
I'm looking at this screenshot right now, Miss Bubbles. I don't see your name anywhere on the screen. So maybe you just think everything is about you.
Yeah, that wasn't just a random comment. To be fair, considering Josh has previously recommended to his viewers to buy a game that he was doing a sponsorship for while asking them to avoid another one in that same video, yeah, I really wouldn't have thought much about it. What hurt me even more is the way that I even found out about this. A mutual community member reached out to me and sent me screenshots about the conversation on Discord. Imagine, they were trying to defend me because they understood that it's wrong to say something like that behind your friend's back. Her alias is Princess Little Piddles, and look at what she said on his Discord. She said, "I just wonder how this would make her feel, knowing she has streamed games with Josh and everything seemed rather fun and whatnot. If she was to see what was said, basically that she can't be trusted with her review of the game cause she was paid, it feels bad to see it, and I'm not even Miss Bubbles."
He never said that though. That's the problem here. He never said Miss Bubbles cannot be trusted. If Miss Bubbles is looking at what he said and feels like it's directed at her, she should do some inward thinking here, some introspection. Because your opinion is compromised by an exchange of money. Because you're getting paid thousands of dollars to do reviews, so you have a vested interest in making sure that that game looks good.
What's even funnier is that another community member who goes by the name Keiki said, "To be honest, I'm not surprised she was more positive in her review. When the early previews were out, she's been very vocal about her excitement and also still pointed out flaws and other issues as well with the game." Imagine how upsetting it is when you realize that a friend that you trust is saying stuff like this behind your back to an audience that you both share.
Nobody was saying that Miss Bubbles was lying about her enjoyment of Star Sand Island. The issue here was about whether viewers can fully trust what someone who's sponsored is saying. Once again, if somebody's getting paid thousands of dollars to promote a product, because that's what she's doing, paid promotion, then naturally they're going to be a little bit biased toward that thing. It's Miss Bubbles' denial that's the issue here. Because she's still doubling down in every single video she makes that's sponsored, and she's saying, "It doesn't matter if I'm being paid, I'm still being honest with you, fuck all the way off." Don't say anything. Just be a fucking shill and wear it loud and proud. That's all. It's that easy. There's a ton of creators who do it. You're selling your opinion for money. So you shouldn't be upset when people are saying Miss Bubbles is selling her opinion for money. Her opinion's compromised. That's a natural conclusion to come to. Anyway, where the hell's Malcolm? I'm getting bored here.
Context is so important to explain why I was so upset, frustrated, angry, and sad during my live stream. I felt completely blindsided and disrespected by Josh. What Josh ends up doing is deleting that comment. So if this mutual community member didn't even tell me, I would be naive today, thinking Josh is a good friend. I would have never found out that this is what he actually thinks about me. When I confronted Josh about this privately, what upset me the most was he made it clear that he's not gonna publicly apologize nor clarify that we've always had different opinions on games. It takes a lot to get a reaction like—
Hold on, let's go back. Josh here is clarifying that his comment was not aimed at anyone in particular. This is a direct message, I guess, that he sent to Miss Bubbles. He says, "I'm so sorry." He apologizes and said the timing was off and I deleted that message to avoid confusion. I clarified it on stream today, but it was not aimed at anyone in particular. So if your good friend is telling you, look, it was bad timing, it was not aimed at you, and I'm sorry, if you're a good friend to him, why would you then go online and do a 3-hour live stream calling him a piece of shit and two-faced and saying you're disgusted by him and saying he's gonna get the karma that's coming to him? The problem here is you. Once again, Miss Bubbles, you are the issue. There's no convincing me here. Maybe your impressionable viewers will believe this bullshit, but not me. That's for sure.
We've always had different opinions on games. It takes a lot to get a reaction like this from me. I give people so much grace even if they've done me wrong. But this wasn't the first time Josh has impacted me negatively. Looking back at how I reacted even 2 months later, I said it again and I still have the same sentiment. I lost all respect for Josh and I don't want to be associated with him anymore. He had no empathy for me and all he cared about was buckling down on what he said.
He didn't buckle down on what he said. He said, "I'm sorry," and I deleted the comment. So once again, she is twisting the truth, because that's not what happened. He did show remorse. Saying I'm sorry is remorse. He deleted the comment. I never would have deleted that shit, by the way. I'm 10 toes down. If I say something, I mean it. If I truly believe something, I'm saying it, and no one is going to make me take that down. So he did a lot more than a lot of people would. I'm telling you that. This is wild.
Apology to me as damage control because he got caught. I cared about Josh, but he didn't care about me at all, and it was heartbreaking for me to realize that. And this brings us to the not Malcolm situation. He frames my emotional reaction on stream as a mere,
looks like she didn't take too kindly to someone bursting her bubble.
That's far from the truth. You know, thinking about it, in
How?
Lebanon we have a saying that says, خاف من الموج الهادئ. It means fear the calm wave. So for us, we're not fearing someone who is visibly angry and upset and sad because they've been heartbroken. It's normal for them to react that way. And when you add on top of it everything that I was personally going through, from the pain and the traumas that are happening back home during this current genocide, it's not surprising that I reacted that way.
Okay, it sounds to me like she wanted Josh to start crying and get on his knees and beg for forgiveness from Miss Bubbles for his little innocuous statement saying, look out for the paid promotion tag if it's a review. This has to be like an ego thing. I don't know how else to explain this. To me, if someone is a friend, like a close friend, if they do something that hurts me and they own up to it and they apologize, you're forgiven, because I know who you are and I know your character and your intentions, right? He didn't do anything bad in this situation. So I'm just, again, so confused by all this and her reaction. She said that thing like we should fear the calm wave. So because Josh didn't have this visceral emotional reaction, that is why you got upset? I'm not understanding. Josh was professional and calm, and he apologized and he said, I deleted the message, but you wanted him to be super reactive and emotional is what it sounds like she wanted. She wanted him to do something that was disproportionate to the reality of the situation. What he did didn't warrant that type of response. It's weird to me.
Also, to clarify, in my stream I said I made sure karma will get him. Not Malcolm constantly uses that clip, which some of his viewers have framed as a serious threat. When I said that, I meant that I believe karma will catch up to people, and I pray that people are held accountable for the harm they cause.
You said karma will get him. I made sure of it. That is what you said. You didn't say, I hope karma finds him. Roll the clip. This is what you said.
And I'm not surprised he'll get his karma. Oh, he definitely. I already made sure that karma is gonna be served.
That is why it comes across as a threat. You didn't just say, oh, karma will get him. What goes around comes around. You said, oh, karma will get him. I already made sure of that. That's the issue, and that's why it came across as a threat.
I later see Josh in the comments of Not Malcolm's video. Josh was still failing to give context behind my reaction. And I find that so odd, especially when he himself was featured in Not Malcolm's videos before. And Josh told me that he felt the coverage was misleading and incorrect. And something that I see happen a lot in media, especially video games, people struggle to accept that someone might really love a game that someone else hates. Like, you're going to see meltdowns happen. And imagine how worse it's going to be when that person also happens to have had a sponsored video about said game.
If you really want people to stop questioning whether your opinions are authentic, then maybe don't take money from every game that wants to write you a check. It's really that simple.
Then we have the worst part, where he puts together a montage of me in the most misleading way possible.
Moonlighter 2.
As I'm partnering with 11-Bit Studios and Digital Sun,
Tavern Keeper.
you're gonna love this one. Thank you Greenheart Games for partnering with me.
Petite Planet.
Hoyoverse is partnering with me today.
On Your Tail.
I'm partnering with Humble Games and Memorable Games to show you this adorable goat detective adventure.
Posey.
And I want to give a special shout out to Tiny Build for partnering with me on this video.
Locomoto.
Greentile Digital and Amplifier Studios partner with me so I can show you this adorable game.
Little Witch in the Woods.
It looks adorable. Thanks to today's sponsor, Sunny Side Up.
Animula Nook.
This is Animula Nook, and its developer Landia Games are sponsoring today's video.
Merge Gardens.
Thank you Merge Gardens for sponsoring today's video.
Rune Factory documentary Guardians of Azuma.
Thank you, Marvelous, for sponsoring this short.
Infinity Nikki.
Thanks to Unfold Games for sponsoring today's video.
Undusted.
This game is perfect for cozy gamers.
Heartopia.
Thank you, Heartopia, for partnering with me on this video.
Squirreled Away.
Thank you, Amplifier Studios and Farseas, for sponsoring this video.
Wonderstop.
A shout out to Annapurna Interactive and Ivy Road.
Dinkum.
So I decided to partner with Crafton.
Disney Dreamlight Valley.
Thank you, Gameloft, for partnering with me.
Metaphor Refantazio.
Thank you, Sega, for sponsoring this video.
Lifted.
You can wishlist Lifted,
Twinklebee.
and you can play it right now on Steam.
You done lost your damn mind.
He pulls my sponsorship list from 2025, and the way that he structures it makes it seem like I don't do anything but sponsored videos on the channel.
Miss Bubbles, how is it misleading to show all of the sponsored videos you've done in the last year on the screen? If something is misleading, it implies that there's some type of dishonesty behind it. I was talking about the sheer scale of paid promotion that you do on your channel, and then I provided receipts of that paid promotion by showing the dozens of games that have sponsored you in the last year. There's nothing misleading about that. I'm sorry you have such a strange relationship with the truth.
He doesn't tell you that I finally got recognized by companies. After spending hundreds of hours playing games, reviewing them, scripting, filming, editing, building a channel for 5 years of hard work, while at a time I was filming videos under candlelight, I finally had a year where I got a good amount of sponsored work. And I don't understand, why is he so panini pressed? Like, this is so normal. Companies have fluctuating budgets, and that determines how many content creators they can sponsor or not.
It's become normalized, especially within the cozy game space, because of people like you. That's why it's normal. And that is why people like me, as a gaming creator, I refuse to do any type of video game sponsorships. I have never done sponsored videos for a game publisher or developer, and I never will. That's been my one promise since I started. But I know that if people are coming to me to hear my honest opinion or my take on a video game, I don't want it to be compromised by an exchange of money, by a sponsorship, which is why I don't do that. My most popular video on this channel is my Heartopia video. Can you imagine if I had done a Heartopia sponsorship and I had signed a contract with a non-disparagement clause that limits what I can say about the game? I would never have been able to make that video. Legally, I could have gotten in a lot of trouble if I had signed that contract and done a Heartopia sponsorship and then turned around and made that video. I could have gotten sued by the company because every contract I've seen has clauses that say you cannot say or do anything that will harm this product or the company making this product. That's the difference between you and me, Miss Bubbles. Some of us are aware of that conflict of interest, and we don't want to do anything that might compromise our honesty.
When I see my peers have many ads, I'm so happy that they get to talk about their joy and they're getting compensated while still maintaining integrity.
Oh, that's good for you, baby.
I also love seeing my peers get sponsorships. What I don't like to see is gaming creators like Miss Bubbles who get sponsored by every fucking game under the sun, okay? That's the issue. I don't care if you want to do a VPN sponsorship and a fucking chair sponsorship or a Skillshare or HelloFresh. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff because there's not really a conflict of interest there for you as a gaming creator. This is like if a book channel was getting paid to promote books. What do you mean you got paid to promote this book? I came here to hear what you have to fucking say about this book, bro. And you're telling me they cut you a check? This is the conflict of interest I'm talking about. So I love that you're super happy for all of your content creators friends who are getting their money. What you don't understand is the conflict of interest that I have an issue with and that I believe is fundamentally bad for players.
Here's the dangerous part. For him, his answer is, well, naturally, if you have a sponsorship, that's it, you're dishonest, we cannot rely on anything that you say. So not only did we clear that everything that he has claimed about my sponsorship with Star Sand Island is false, there wasn't even any contract there, he also fails to mention that most creators—
I didn't just discuss her Star Sand Island sponsorship in the video. I talked about all of the sponsored videos that she does, most of which, I would say 99%, she had contracts for. That's why I discussed the non-disparagement clauses and stuff. I love that she conveniently leaves out the part of the video where I talk about reciprocity bias and the psychological component to all of this. Once again, she doesn't want you to know about that.
As a creator, you can negotiate contracts, you can ask for changes, and when a company refuses, you have the choice to walk away. It's so worrying when misinformation is presented as a fact, when severe harassment is happening because of it. Here's a clip from my
Here's the thing. I never said you can't amend your contract. I said there are standard elements to every contract. And the fact that she's trying to frame this as Malcolm is saying you can't change your contracts. Every contract I've signed has a non-disparagement clause. I don't think that's something that can be removed from a contract. I'd love to see it. If she has removed that from her contracts, I would love to see it. I haven't said anything incorrect or false here.
I've blurred some of the things out of respect for the studio. So this was sent in October 2025. My content must remain completely independent. I know how to deliver fair, constructive feedback and will always be honest in my coverage. I won't sugarcoat or alter my opinion.
This is an email, babes, not a contract. But I do see at the bottom she says, the contract must include a clause allowing constructive criticism. So she's not showing us anything here that proves that she can say anything she wants, whatever she wants, even if she thinks the game is dog shit, she can say it. That's not gonna be in a contract because they're paying you to promote their game. They're not gonna pay you to shit all over their game. This is like common sense shit. But once again, she conveniently leaves that out.
In fact, last week I worked with them on a Moonlight Peaks video where I said the game has potential, but I pointed out so many negative points that
I watched this video. It was sugar-coated criticism as per usual for a sponsored video. At the end of the day, she still recommends the game, as she always does in every sponsored video.
Another example he gives about me is my sponsorship with Animal Lanook, where he claims that I said Animal Lanook is amazing because I played it, like I tried it.
I never fucking said that she played it. I said she did a sponsored video for a game that she didn't play.
That is not what I said. I never said that. The next
I didn't
Cozy
say
game
you said
is
that.
not out yet, but I
What the
have
fuck?
the pleasure of announcing it to you today, and I already know I'm gonna be obsessed with it.
I literally included this clip in my video. So this again is an intentional twisting of the truth. My point in the video was saying, how are you recommending a game to us that you haven't even fucking played? That was the point I was trying to make.
I described the gameplay, which I knew is something that I'm very likely to enjoy. The game is
But
free to
you don't
register
know.
for, and I never forced anyone to buy it.
You can't even fucking buy the game. It's not for sale because the game is not out. The problem is you claimed a game was amazing when you haven't even played the game. That's weird. That was exactly the point I made in the video.
Another issue that's concerning to me is something that he said in this members only video. He says that he plans to turn the information that he has found into a public video. So let me address this here because I just have zero interest in any future videos that he's making. Basically, he received an email from Instant Gaming, which he has done plenty of sponsorships with. So they were asking him if he wanted to work on another sponsorship. Now, the person who approached him, Claudia, also reached out to me in 2024 and 2025.
To give you some context, Claudia is the partner manager for Instant Gaming, which is a discount video game retail site. She manages all the influencers that they work with to promote their company. If you don't know, Instant Gaming sponsors a bunch of different creators on YouTube and maybe other platforms, I don't know. I worked with Instant Gaming for about 2 years. I have not worked with them in almost a year at this point. And Claudia is the person who was my contact, my partner manager at Instant Gaming when I was working with them. So last year, I decided not to renew my contract, and a few months later, Claudia reached out to me again, I think it was in April, and she asked if I would work with them again. And in that email she sent asking if I would do another contract with them, she said, I saw one of your videos about cozy game influencers and I agreed with what you said. She said she had an interaction with one of the influencers I mentioned in a video and it didn't go well. And then she attached a screenshot of an email that Miss Bubbles sent her. To be clear, I was never going to say any of this about Claudia or Instant Gaming. I was never going to mention the company's name or Claudia's name. I mentioned them in a private members video. And then Miss Bubbles went on to be messy and say it all publicly. Which is fine, be messy. But in that video Claudia was referring to about cozy influencers, I did not speak highly about Miss Bubbles. So in essence, Claudia was saying that she agreed with my critical analysis of Miss Bubbles. Why did she decide to include a screenshot showing Miss Bubbles' rates? I have no clue. I didn't ask for it. I didn't even respond to this email that she sent me. I do know, however, that in those 2 years I worked with Instant Gaming, I made them a fuck ton of money. And maybe this was her weird way of trying to rope me back in to do another contract by giving me tea. I don't fucking know, okay? But yes, it was weird that she sent me Miss Bubbles rates. By the way, there's also a ton of people in the comments of Miss Bubbles' video who are really mad at Claudia and are saying she needs to be fired, she broke the law. To be clear, there was never a contract between Miss Bubbles and Instant Gaming. Miss Bubbles did not work with them because they would not agree to pay her the $1,600 for a 30-second ad that she was asking for. So I'm sorry to Miss Bubbles' viewers, but Claudia is not going to go to jail or probably even get fired for sharing a screenshot of an email. That's not illegal. But to reiterate, was it weird that Claudia sent me Miss Bubbles' rates? Yes. But did I also appreciate that she sent me her rates? Also yes, because it further proved my point that Miss Bubbles has a substantial financial interest to promote games and to work with game companies. That's why she's hopping into the pockets of every company that's willing to pay her her rate. Hence the 30 sponsored videos Miss Bubbles has done in the last year. When a creator does that many sponsored videos, it's only natural that we, the viewers, ask the question, are you doing these videos because you really love these games? Or are you just doing them to get your bag? And sure, sometimes there can be overlap. Sometimes you can both love a game and take money to promote it, but to do that 30 times in 1 year, I don't think so. I can't even think of 30 games I actually love. But my point is, as a content creator, you cannot deny the conflict of interest that is inherent when money is involved in this way.
Now, when it comes to me and my content creation friends and colleagues, we have a Discord server where we openly share our rates, and this is our way to make sure that we're not being underpaid. So this is how I learned that Instant Gaming severely lowballs creators. So when Claudia asked about my rates, I pushed my rates up, and mind you, my rates are still so much lower than other content creators who have an even smaller channel than mine. In Claudia's message to Not Malcolm,
She's saying she knew that they underpaid, so she increased her rates in the email? Is that what she's implying? Because that doesn't make any sense. First of all, Instant Gaming is a discount video game site. You can buy a video game for like $2. They're going to pay a bit less than other sponsors. And I even said this in my members only video. So it doesn't make sense that she's saying she asked for a lot more. If you knew a company paid less naturally to everyone, you wouldn't ask for a lot more than you usually do. I'm not understanding that part.
she frames the conversation between me and her as being not smooth. And what he does is he uses that to make it sound like she had a horrible experience with me.
She must have had a really bad experience with Miss Bubbles. What else would I interpret from that? How else could I explain why she would send me a screenshot of Miss Bubbles' email? I even said in my members video, it's kind of messy. That's the only reasonable conclusion I could come to. Like, why else would you out another creator like this unless you had a negative experience with them?
I actually emailed Claudia because I was so confused and I wanted to understand, where did I go wrong? Why is she framing our conversation as negative? I was also concerned because our private email thread was now being shared publicly, especially when it was being used to
No. It was shared privately in a members video. I censored all of the identifying information whenever I posted my public video where I discussed your rates. So this was not shared publicly. She says, I want to raise a concern about private email threads with Instant Gaming being shared publicly when it is being used to negatively frame me and misrepresent the nature of our interaction. Based on what I understand, the video is currently members only and the details will be mentioned in another public video as well. She said, I assume this was cleared with management, so I would love to hop on a call and discuss. I would appreciate the chance to understand what happened and whether there was anything in my communication that made you uncomfortable. Poor Claudia. I feel kind of bad for her, but look, I knew that I was going to hide Claudia's name and Instant Gaming's name from this. So I feel bad that Miss Bubbles has aired this out publicly because that was not something I was going to do. And I even said that in my members only video. But I do feel bad for Claudia because I worked with her for 2 years. She's a nice person. I never responded to the email she sent me asking me to work with them. So for me, it's fine. I do feel bad for Claudia though.
And I found his behavior in that video so odd. He mocks my work that I'm so proud to create, work that I spend weeks on researching, editing, scripting, filming, and just working on. On top of that, he's using his large...
I literally just said, Miss Bubbles, your channel's half the size of mine, and you're going to a discount video game site that by your own confession, you know that they pay less than average, and you're asking for $1,600 for a 30-second ad? That's ridiculous. So I made a comment saying, does she think she's fucking Michelangelo sculpting away at a masterpiece? Because 30 seconds, $1,600. It's kind of out of touch, to be honest with you. And it lines up with a lot of what we've seen from Miss Bubbles.
He also does this thing where he converts in the video my rates from Great British Pound into USD to make the numbers feel a lot more inflated and more shocking to his audience.
2,000 pounds, that's like 2,700 US dollars. What the fuck are we on here? Most of my viewers are American, and I am American. That's why I showed the dollar amount. 2,700 US dollars. It wasn't to act like the number's a lot higher than it really was. What the fuck?
I don't live in the US. We use the Great British Pound here, not USD. So reframing my rates the way that he did feels intentionally misleading and is just sensationalized.
Shut the fuck up.
It's really bizarre that
it's sensationalist to convert pounds to US dollars. Eat my entire ass. That is so fucking stupid. I should X out of this video now. Like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It is misleading and sensationalist to include a conversion of a currency in a video. Have we lost our fucking minds? What the... Absolutely bonkers.
I have to sit here and explain why I charge in the first place. Imagine if you're in my place and
nobody
a stranger
cares.
is just publicly discussing whether you're worthy of your salary while also mocking the work that you're doing. And mind you, what hurts even more is that I was underpaid for sponsorships for the longest time until my circle of friends openly shared their rates with me, and I realized that, yeah, I was being taken advantage of. And you know, since he is presenting himself as someone critiquing sponsorship ethics,
I don't care. I think it's unethical each and every time, and I will die on that hill.
I think it's fair to mention that he has taken sponsorships from BetterHelp. If you don't know, this is a company that offers mental health help and services, but it has public controversies, including privacy concerns where they're sharing users' health data, and also a lot of practices that they do which are very anti-consumer and defy their whole goal of helping people with their mental health. And I'm not bringing this up so people go cancel him or spread.
2 years ago, I did a BetterHelp sponsorship and quickly removed the video shortly after it was posted. 2 years ago. So this to me sounds like Miss Bubbles is trying to do a gotcha moment. What about you getting sponsored by this unrelated non-gaming company? I learned why that sponsorship was bad, and I took action and I removed the video. So I don't know what you want from me, Miss Bubbles. Great deflection. We love that.
All I'm saying is, if we're going to discuss sponsorship ethics, that standard should apply consistently across the board. You can disagree with my reviews, dislike my videos, say that I'm wrong about a game.
But again, those were non-gaming sponsorships. I'm a video game creator. So I do feel like there's less of a conflict of interest. Recently, I got offered what would have been my largest brand deal ever. We even got to the contract stage. I thought everything was fine. But whenever I looked into the company, I learned that they're headquartered in Israel. And again, this is unrelated, non-video game sponsors. Most people would probably just skip the ad because it's unrelated to the type of content I do. But what did I do? I backed out of the contract. I wouldn't be criticizing Miss Bubbles if she wanted to do a BetterHelp sponsorship. I don't give a fuck what she does. But it's this whole taking money from game companies and then pretending like she's this 100% honest, virtuous person who isn't affected by sponsorships or money. That is the problem, Miss Bubbles. It is the lack of accountability on her part that's the issue here. And it's terrifying, to be honest with you, to see someone who's this out of touch and this unable to just take any accountability. Any part where she could own up to what she said or did, she never apologized apologize for the way she talked about Josh. She never said, oh, I overreacted. She never acknowledged that her opinion of these games can be swayed by her financial relationships with these companies. Zero accountability.
Spreading false information, removing context, mocking my work, discussing private business details, saying I'm not worth being paid, and repeatedly bringing me up.
I never said you don't deserve to be paid £2,000 to make your videos. I think it's a lot for a channel your size, but she thinks she's hot shit and she wants to ask for $5,000 to make a video. Go at it. Do you. But don't deny that you're affected by that. That's the problem. Is she intentionally missing the whole fucking point or what?
Even after some of your audience has already harassed me, this is all far from okay. And for that reason, I'm drilling this point in. I am not interested in any videos that he makes about me.
Joe. Oh wait, go back.
Any
What are
videos
these?
that he
What is the
makes about
text?
me.
Joe, my editor, and I are actively working on this video, and of course, Not Malcolm released a new video. As I said, I'm not interested in any of his BS moving forward. Great. Right after his new video on May 13th, I received comments like this on my community post stating I deserve the death threats. Look, I am not responsible for that. Did I tell these people to send death threats? Did Lil Simsy tell her fans to send death threats to me? No. I can't be responsible for the actions or the behavior of every random person who watches my videos. Even if I say 100 times, please don't send hate to this person, people will still do whatever the fuck they want. He will continue to monetize off of harassment, spelled wrong, and open new waves of this behavior without holding accountability or telling the truth. Everything I said was factual, and you're the one who's not taking accountability, Miss Bubbles. But nice try.
I want to take this as a chance to let you know that if you've ever felt like this, please know that you're loved, you're not alone. I'm going to pin helplines that you can use. I hope that you help me move forward from this. I don't want to hear about Josh or Not Malcolm or any other drama.
But where was this sympathy and caring about what people are going through when you made your 3-hour live stream? That's my question. It seems like you only care about what other people do or say if it affects you. That's the vibe I'm getting from this. Why are you not feeling safe? Have you asked yourself that? How did you get in this position? Could it be that you put yourself here and your refusal to own up to any part that you played or to acknowledge the mistakes that you made in this situation? Perhaps if you actually owned up to any part of that, things would get a little better. But you're just doubling down and you're playing the victim, which we said we expected when we saw the title, and it has proven to be true. Absolutely. So congratulations, Miss Bubbles. You should change your name to Miss Victim. At the end of the day, I'm really starting to see a pattern here. Crashing out in a 3-hour live stream, calling your supposed friend a two-faced lying piece of shit, posting a video, refusing to take accountability, where you're in the comments accusing someone of being a rage-baiting, misogynistic, racist bigot. But the truth of the matter is this is a broader issue. It's more than just about Miss Bubbles. It's about influencer culture in general. How influencers use their platforms to deceive their viewers. How they're rewarded for lying to their audience. How they deflect anytime they do something wrong and refuse to take accountability for their mistakes. For many influencers like Miss Bubbles, their worth as a creator is not based on advocating for their viewers or using their platforms to discuss anti-consumerism or even doing the right thing. It's about getting as many brand deals as possible. It doesn't matter how average Star Sand Island is or how mediocre any of the dozens of games Miss Bubbles has been paid to promote are. As long as we're buying the games she recommends and she's getting her bag, that's what's most important to her. And anyone who dares to call out the endless cycle of consumerism that influencers like Miss Bubbles profit off of, well, they're not saying anything important. They're just jealous, misogynistic, rage-baiting, racist xenophobes. So, Miss Bubbles, are you watching this stream? I really hope you're watching it.